Hey guys, I'm Barry.
Okay, we have a word problem here. It says, you run in a city where the short blocks on north-south streets are 0.1 mile long. That's already confusing to me, right?
Sure.
And then the long blocks on east-west streets are 0.15 miles long. You will run 2 long blocks east, then you will run a number of short blocks south, then you run 2 long blocks west, then run north back to the beginning. Oh my gosh. You want to run 2 miles total. How many short blocks should you run? Okay, how many people would agree with me this is a bunch of gobbledygook? Like, yeah, that's how I felt. When I read this, oh my gosh, this is confusing, right? So I have to make it less confusing. So I pull out of this confusing paragraph important information. Okay, it says, I run in a city where short blocks go north and south, and they're 0.1. Okay, so short blocks, I write this down. Short blocks are 0.1 mile, and they go north and south. Right? And then I write the next thing. It says long blocks go east and west, and they're 0.15. So long blocks, 0.15 mile, and they go east-west. Well, that's helpful. So nothing goes diagonally. It's either north and south or east and west. That's kind of helpful to know. It's starting to make more sense to me. Now it says you will run 2 long blocks east. Suddenly I'm thinking, you know, I think a picture would help me. I'm going to say, look, this is my starting point. Here's my starting point, right here. X marks the starting point. I'm going to run 2 long blocks east. Here we go. Here's 1 long block, and here's 2 long blocks. Boom. And that's east, right? I just ran east, 2 long blocks. Okay. Then you will run a number of short blocks. Okay, so I'm going to go like this. Oh wait, but which way am I going? Number of short blocks south. South is down here. So I'm going to go, you know, I'm going to make that a short block, this a short block, and then I'm going to do this to tell me I don't know how many short blocks I'm going to go. Right? See what I'm doing? So I just don't know how far. But I'm just drawing it. Okay, so that's my number of short blocks south. Then I run 2 long blocks west. Let's see, west is back this way. Oh, this is starting to make sense. It's starting to look like a rectangle. Right? There's my first block. Here's my second block. Beautiful. And then suddenly it says I run north back to the beginning. Okay. So I'm going to run back here, and I don't know how far this is, back to the beginning.
So it'd be a variable.
Right? So suddenly I know my long blocks are how long? They're 0.15. So I know this is 0.15. I know this is 0.15. I know this is 0.15. You guys agree with me? Mm-hmm. And I know this is 0.15. To me, that suddenly clarified this problem. It took this gobbledygook and I said, oh, it's a rectangle. I know what I'm supposed to do. I'm supposed to find the perimeter, right? And by finding the perimeter, I can actually do this. What do I want the perimeter to be? Beckett.
2 miles.
2 miles. So my total perimeter, this plus this plus this plus this plus whatever this is plus whatever this is, has to equal 2 miles. Okay, so let's write it out. So let's write a verbal model. So we could say you got the length. So this is going to be our verbal model. This is called a verbal model. Okay? Don't ring the bell, Nate. Okay? Actually, can you see if we could have like about 3 more minutes?
Yeah.
That'd be really great. Our verbal model. All right, here it is. We got length. We've got the length of a short block, right? Times, okay, that's our first thing. Times how many blocks we run, right? The number of short blocks. Now, what are we going to do with that? We also have long blocks, so we're going to have to go plus the length of long blocks right, times the number of long blocks. Put that in a box, equals my perimeter, or 2 miles. Right? Yes? You see what I'm doing so far?
Did you
All right.
know length?
I have the length of my short block. This is going to be 0.1 miles. And I need to know how many of them I'm going to run. Unfortunately, I don't know how many, right? Isn't that what I'm trying to find out? How many short blocks? The number of short blocks. How many short blocks? So that's going to be x. This is going to be x. This is going to be the length of the short block, which is 0.1. I'll put 0.1 times x plus the length of the long blocks, which is 0.15, times the number of long blocks. How many did I run? 4 times 4, right? And that's going to equal 2 miles. So suddenly it's starting to look like an equation. So I'm gonna figure this out. What is 0.15 times 4?
6. Yeah. 0.6.
0.6. Okay, so we're going to say we've got 0.1x plus 6 equals 0.6 equals 2, right? There's our equation. So now we're going to subtract 0.6, subtract 0.6. We've got 0.1x is equal to 1.4, right? Did I do that right? And I'm going to divide by 0.1. Divide by 0.1. Anybody have a calculator?
You have to run 14.
Right. Okay. So we can just say x is equal to 14, right? So that's our answer. So the number of short blocks we have to run in order to run 2 miles is 14 short blocks. Okay? So we figured that out. We took this gobbledygook, right? We wrote down our steps, which is not what they tell you to do in the book. I definitely feel strongly you should write down the key information, because it helps you to organize stuff. And then draw a picture. If you can, draw the picture. Suddenly it looks like a perimeter, and we all know the formula for perimeter, right? Perimeter is all the sides on the outside, the fence, added together. And then you kind of know what to do. So it's got to be 0.15 times the number of these, which is 4, and then 0.1 times the number of these, adding those all together, equals your final 2 miles. So that's it just gives you an idea of how, like the lecture I gave yesterday on using, forming a plan. That's the kind of thing that I do to make sense of it. The only thing I didn't do today is I usually read the problem through like 2 or 3 times. The first time I'm realizing it's setting the scene. I'm realizing, oh no, I'm not in Africa. I'm not talking about chimpanzees. I'm in a city and I'm talking about a runner. And we're talking about somehow distance a little bit. Okay, so that's interesting. So at least that gives me some. Then I'll read it another time and suddenly I realize, oh, well, let's see, there's short blocks and long blocks. Then I'm going to start, the third time I read it through, I might write things down. I might try to draw my picture, and then suddenly it starts to become clear what I need to do to get my answer. So anyways, that's it. Okay? So that's it. So I'm going to hit upload.